So that's what I want to talk about, on the technology side. So we have some time, though, here to have some thoughts, Q&A, blah, 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 like that. So let's do that. Or do you want to take a break now and then come back and do it?
There's a lot of information.
Yeah, I know. I'm just piling you with information. So let's just talk for a minute then. Thoughts? Where am I full of crap? Where am I? Do things resonate with you? Cool. Yeah.
So,
Andy? Andy,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for your prototype stack,
Yeah.
what do you do? For data, you do JSON, but is it just sort of hard coded, or do you model your data?
That's a really good one. So what we do is we'll either create a mock service with a node because the Java team's maybe not ready to do it, and we'll have JSON come from there. But we actually create that JSON. Sometimes we just mock it up. Sometimes it's just hard coded data. But what it does is it allows us to define what that JSON structure is. It allows us also to define those service endpoints. And so when we start talking to our engineering counterparts on the back-end side, they already have, what we're doing. And we actually created like a wiki page that documents all that. We could probably a better approach. I'm starting to move more and more where I'm putting almost everything in GitHub. I'm moving away from wiki even and putting stuff on GitHub using Markdown. It's kind of interesting, especially for any kind of code fragments, because you can put the JSON there in the GitHub and you can iterate on it. You can go back and see versions of it, which on Wiki would be a lot harder to do, and kind of document even issues around it and stuff like that. Or you could use Gist, the Gist stuff to track it. But yeah, we do a variation, but usually we don't let anything slow us down. We'll just hack it in there. And then we'll have the conversations, because you put it somewhere visible like a URL, whether it's a wiki page or GitHub, you got the dev team can look at it, comment on it, change it, And you could imagine some more elaborate kind of things where you could pull that in from GitHub and stuff like that. Yes?
So I work on a project where we have two apps. We just finished a mobile app, and so you talking about like the responsive server side is really interesting. So we use a lot of like backend rules and services that are used across both apps.
Yep.
And so down the road we want to redo our desktop version, and so it just made me think if you could maybe elaborate like on how you would take, because we did a really good job. We used like Dust, Backbone, and everything for this mobile app we just did. It's really great.
Yep.
How could we take that in some way to like a responsive server side to be more desktop friendly? And obviously when you use the desktop, they wanted to show more stuff, like in the view layer. Like, well, I guess I don't know enough about the responsive server side to understand
Yeah.
how that would work.
Yeah, so responsive server side would basically be, I'm based on the device, I pick some different templates, you could do it on, media queries, when you're doing on the responsive server side, but you can do kind of bigger wholesale things like, pulling different JavaScript, pulling other things you might want to do, from the server side, what you render. You might make different calls. There's a bunch of more things you can do from a responsive server side perspective. But it sounds like you're on the right track. The basic things you want to do is you don't want to build any of that middle layer, the layer you're talking to from the UI, so that it knows anything about, it makes any assumptions about what the form factor is or what the UI is. It's okay to have metadata, right? You may have some metadata that describes, kind of rendering hints even, so that, I know I'm the client, or I'm in a place in the rendering logic where I decide maybe what to deliver, but I got enough metadata to make an intelligent decision on what to deliver down to that device, based on that metadata. Sometimes like in validation, or like, let's say you have process flows, and the process flows, where do I go next? You give a hint to that, or maybe there's some kind of compliance things in another country. You may do something slightly different or whatever else. You don't want to send that kind of stuff down. You make that decision on the back end, but you want to send that metadata along to wherever the rendering engine is, whether it's in the server or the client, so it knows enough to decide, for this country I suppress this, but it does it from a metadata perspective, right? Does that make sense? So as much as you can, you keep that real clean separation, but that metadata sort of comes that little bit of extra cheating layer, if you will. It's that little bit of extra data you can give it that provides enough context to render intelligently, smartly, and all that kind of stuff without inferring what the end state of that UI is going to be, right? That's been something we found to be pretty useful to do that. Yep. Yes.
So I spent a semester thinking about computational creativity, and we're talking about HTML, taking the HTML prototype and going right to production, and I definitely see that's great. I was tempted to do that because I was working 25 hours a week and a full-time grad student. I thought HTML will save time.
Yeah.
But when I was thinking more about that, if you're especially, and I'm bringing this up more as a point, when you're doing the design work, it's very important to get some flow going. It's like my old boss, Dave, he did not know HTML, but he was a wizard with Excel. And for the type of development we were doing, was just display boards. He could lay out a display board in Excel just fine, but if he, okay, Dave, he had a very important point in the conversation being the boss. But it's all about finding the tool, be it pen and paper,
That's
be it
exactly
Excel,
right.
be it whatever. I just want to make sure that gets out there, that you don't take one path. It's like, this is good to do it in HTML. You got to use a tool that works for the individual.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've actually used all kinds of tools. I mean, I still have this for some reason. It's still like a fairly popular blog article I wrote in 2005 that I had taken Visio, it was 2006, I'd taken Visio, and over the holidays I had created a wireframing toolkit with Visio where it was interactive, and you could create these click-throughs, where you basically turn layers in and out and stuff like that, and it had stencils you could drag and drop and create your storyboarding. It's basically Visio storyboarding, and that worked pretty well for me to quickly ramp up stuff. I've used OmniGraffle, I've used Keynote, Keynotopia, I think is the one that has a bunch of the. I think that's the one it's called, Keynotopia, has a bunch of the quick mock-up stuff you can do with Keynote. In fact, Luke Wroblewski also has a really good article on that. You can use PowerPoint, of course. I used to use FrameMaker, right? I would say early stage, watch out for HTML because you'll get trapped in all this. What I think works good is that for us with the checkout flow, it was pretty easy because we've spent 10 years on checkout before. The product managers all knew it inside and out. Designers didn't, so they had to learn that, but we were sketching flows and we were sketching pretty simple forms. When we moved to the experience for our merchant experience, which is, also has to have a really nice tablet experience, really get your inventory, your reports, moving money and stuff like that. You need a little more fidelity. So using things like OmniGraffle or whatever else to kind of put those ideas together. And then we turn them into HTML prototypes pretty quick. But the key again is about the experience, about the ideation, and how to get the best ideas out there to learn as fast as possible. No, it's good.
We're completely in agreement.
Absolutely. No, it's good. I appreciate that because you try to emphasize a point, and you don't want to leave it in isolation. It's good point. Yep.
For your responsive web apps, okay, when you go down to a mobile, are you including anything like jQuery mobile or?
That's a good point. So we played with several different of those, variations. Let's see, there's like 3 of them. I thought I had them, I actually have in the back here at the back, I have a little appendix in there too. Yeah, Zepto and Snack are some of the ones. I haven't tried 140 Medley or Dollar Dom, but that's some others that what I prefer, and I hope, and we haven't really decided yet, but what I'm hoping we'll end up with, I'll leave it to my architect to figure this out, but and his team, is to be jQuery UI jQuery compatible. Right, not jQuery UI, jQuery compatible. So that the same API, the base stuff, most simple stuff, is exactly the same. So that we don't have to kind of rewrite logic that might go both places. And so it's that portability, right, between the two, which I think is pretty nice. But jQuery Mobile is a little bloated. So some of these others like, I think Snack is what Luke's been using, some others like Zepto. But I would probably shy away from jQuery Mobile from what I'm seeing now, but mileage varies. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, everybody's like laughing and giggling and looking at me. Yeah, so
Has he
a
been a
couple,
big jQuery Mobile proponent? Yeah.
yeah, I've given talks all over the place about it.
Hey, you know what? You probably know about 10 times more than I do about it. So
Yeah, I mean,
seriously, I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm seriously like, you know,
yeah. So a couple of points to address.
Yep.
Number one is addressing size. There's a download builder now. So you can just, if you need a slider that's not only touch friendly and desktop friendly, works across tablet, mobile,
Yeah.
all these different devices, you can just download the slider, you know. So that some of that customizing and modularization is,
Yeah.
is addressing size. And then the second major advantage is if you aren't, you know, maybe the size of PayPal or Netflix or whatever, where you have, you know, ability to have tons of different devices that you test on and a huge QA team and whatnot. Starting with something with jQuery Mobile that already has been tested across more devices than any other framework.
yeah, yeah,
Just the sheer amount of testability that's been put into it.
yep,
You know, starting at using that as the base because you're kind of starting with a lot of browser support right out of the box.
yep.
And then
Yep.
sort of building on top of it. So those are some of the advantages, and they're addressing, you know, the issues that.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, my thought when I came in was to just use jQuery Mobile, you know, and then some of the team were like, it's bloated, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't dig into it, you know. But Jeff, who's on my team, is digging into all that, so we'll figure it out. That's good to know. I think what we do agree on is that having a mobile solution that if you're using, especially, and I like jQuery a lot, if you're using jQuery on the desktop, right, going down to mobile, using something that's compatible, and then of course jQuery Mobile, you know, the jQuery UI kind of thing, right, is really important because that just takes away a lot of the, you know, thing. Now, see, we've moved away from jQuery UI. We're using, you know, Twitter Bootstrap, and while it does adapt down and everything, it doesn't quite have all the capabilities like jQuery Mobile and stuff like that. There's a project for you. He says, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do that, but
Yeah, it's called time.